Hey, I just finished making my second short film of the year, and I'm going to go back to LA tomorrow. Why? Why? What's up, it's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And today I'm going to be doing a movie roundup video where I essentially talk about the movies, animes, and TV shows I watched in the last couple of weeks or so. Starting off, I watched The King of Comedy, directed by Martin Scorsese. Now, Martin Scorsese is a fantastic director, and I thought this movie would be great, but not really. This movie isn't as great as I thought it would be, but nonetheless it is still a fantastic movie. It holds a great discussion on fame, narcissism, and the entertainment industry. As a character study, it works really well, and Robert De Niro's performance is amazing. And overall, it is a pretty great movie still. 9 out of 10. Next up, I watched Portrait de la jeune fille en feu, or Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Céline Sciamma. This is like the film equivalent of Don't Cry Because It's Over, Smile Because It Happened, and it just hits really hard. This is essentially a no-score movie that is kind of mid-paced and artsy, and definitely not for the mainstream audience, but it is a beautiful movie. The vibrant colors are gorgeous, and the last act is beautifully and poetically sad. It is a really great film in the LGBTQ world, and also a great film in European cinema in general. 9 out of 10. Next up, I watched 七人樂隊, or Septet, The Story of Hong Kong, in the cinemas, and it is essentially a 7 short film anthology movie, basically 7 short films slammed together. It is respectively directed by Sammo Hung, Hong Gumbo, Anne Hu, Hu Anhua, Patrick Tam, Tam Ga-ming, Yuen Wo-ping, Johnny To, Do Ki-fung, Ringo Lam, Lim Ling-dong, as well as Choi Hart, Choi Huk. And yeah, overall this is a pretty disappointing movie because only 2 out of 7 short films are decent in my opinion. Anne Hu, who is one of the best directors in Hong Kong history, is not at her A game. The short film by Patrick Tam is easily some of the sappiest, most melodramatic, and confusing in the entire movie, and Choi Hark is basically trolling at the end of the movie. So overall, not impressive at all. 4 out of 10. Then, I finished watching Kaguya-Sama Love is War Ultra Romantic. It is a manga written and illustrated by Akasaka Aka. And this is some of the best rom-com I've ever seen. The first half is basically more of the same, and that doesn't mean it's bad or anything, it's just not that surprising. However, the second half of the season is absolutely fantastic. The cultural festival arc is truly amazing. They really turned romance into something really compelling, and it basically lives up to its title, Love is War, because the last act, the last few episodes, literally feel like a battle. It feels like a war, and it is amazing. The narration, the voice acting, the animation is so full of energy, and overall it's definitely one of the better animes I've watched in recent times. 9 out of 10. Next, I watched 365 Dni, or 365 Days, directed by Barbara Villalobos and Tomasz Mendes, and this movie is bad, misogynistic, and stupid. The story makes no sense either, it is bad, don't watch it. 2 out of 10. And of course, as a companion piece, I watched the sequel, 365 Days This Day. And it is even worse, with more shitty pop music, more sex, less plot. The ending is hilariously bad, and movies like this give romance a bad name. It makes me don't want to watch romance. It's easily one of the worst movies I've seen. 0 out of 10. Then I continued on my Hong Kong movie series with Wheels on Meals, or Fai Tan Te, directed by Sammo Hung, Hong Gumbo. And it is a fun Hong Kong action film with a hell of a last act. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that this movie takes place in Spain. I would prefer it much more if it takes place in Hong Kong, because it feels more home, I guess. And fighting in Hong Kong is so much more fun. But overall, it's still a very fun movie, 8 out of 10. And then afterwards, I watched Mr. Vampire, or Gung-si Sin-sang, directed by Ricky Lau Gun-wei, and it is another fun classic film from Hong Kong. It successfully combines elements of horror and comedy together. The Chinese culture portrayed in this movie is absolutely butchered, but that's exactly what makes it so damn funny. I also really like the sound design, and I think the directing is very clean and crisp. 8 out of 10. I'm going to talk more about these two movies in a future video. Anyways, I watched Tetsuo the Iron Man, directed by Tsukamoto Shinya, and this is a 1 hour long, insane, sweaty, disgusting audio-visual experience and has some of the most impressive stop motion I've seen in film. The story is really basic, but it is the execution that makes it absolutely batshit insane. I like the industrial techno beats as a score. It makes it so much more uncomfortable and distressing, and even though the story is simple, it still tries to explain the background and the motives of the characters, and the final fight is just absolutely crazy. It has fantastic cinematography and it is artsy for the sake of art. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Afterwards, I watched Hardcore, directed by Paul Schrader, and I already did a full-length review on it, so I don't need to talk too much about it right now, but it is a fantastic piece of social commentary. Essentially, it shows how the world of conservative Christianity collides against the world of Californian sex and porn, two very different sides of the same spectrum in America. And this film also perfectly describes what underground means. It just takes you along a ride to the underbelly of the world of sex and porn. It's really interesting and fascinating, and I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 as well. Finally, yesterday, I watched, or was it a couple days ago? It was a couple days ago. A couple days ago, I watched Detectives vs. Sleuths, or神探大戰, directed by Wei Fille. This is a new movie that came out in Hong Kong. So before I leave Hong Kong and return to LA, I want to watch a Hong Kong film in the cinema for the final time in 2022. And boom! This is a mess. This is kind of a mess. It has too much plot, too many characters, and the editing is too fast. The acting is not very good, and the dialogues are kind of awkward, and the CGI is laughably awful. However, the idea itself is great. It has some good cinematography, and Sean Lau did a great job as the main character, but overall, it is definitely not an impressive movie, and it suffers from many of the same problems that a lot of Hong Kong movies nowadays suffer. So, yeah, 6 out of 10. So, have you watched these movies? What else did you watch in August so far? Comments below, let me know. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want more.